All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Obviously, we're starting earlier today. Typically, we're at 11 a.m. Eastern time, but it's a little after 10 today. So I wanted to take advantage. I'm looking at the MLB board. I'm seeing some props out there that I'm liking. So I want to dig into my research for MLB. I want to get this NBA stream over and done with. Get this out of the way so I can jump off of here and put it down for my Patreon gang out there. So I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for joining. My name's CJ. If you've never been here before, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're looking for NBA player prop research, this is the place to be. So subscribe, turn on notifications by ringing the bell down below. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave a like for me if you're liking anything that you're hearing out of today's live stream. And we will get down to business. I see a few folks jumping in here early this morning. Appreciate you being here with me. As I said, we are doing an earlier live stream today, and it might be an early thing that I might start doing, a little bit more often, getting on here a little earlier. But anyway, I see that King Chris is in the building. Thanks for being here. Yaz is here. We got Marcus in the building. Says, let's get these likes up. We're trying to go for over 99.5. You know it. You know it. Constant Dew Drinker 88. Who are the locks? The locks are Sheik Luch, Styles P, and Jada Kiss, man. Those are the locks. Suave Los, what's happening? Thanks for being here. Travis is in the building. Says, Kyrie ruined my night. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Kyrie and KD, but if they want any chance of winning this series, they're going to have to wake up and start playing some basketball. Jordan says, horrible night last night. It's a new day, though. Let's get this paper. Tony Ruiz, good morning to you. Nice curveball. Love me. Nice curveball on me. Love it, though. Okay, I got it. Sorry. Took me a minute. Chris Smith says, good morning. A little early. Yeah, we're doing this early, man. We're going to knock this thing out so I can get off here and go do some MLB player prop research. Father Luis, or Lewis, good morning to you as well. Thanks for being here. Jimmy Green's in the building. Got to stick to the two-man powers. I now have to deposit after a rough night last night. Got to have faith. Jonathan's here. He says Kyrie sold him as well. Can't bet on him till he's feeling himself again. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, Sheik Luch, Styles P, Jada Kiss. Those are the only locks that I am aware of. Paid Bando is in the building. Fading Kyrie as well and KD after last night. Maybe they need Super Ben Simmons to throw the cape on and get out there and turn this series around against the Boston Celtics. Maybe it's going to take Ben Simmons getting out there to help this squad. A lot of hate for KD and Kyrie, but for good reason. They did not perform very well. Jeff B's in the building. Says, brutal beat yesterday. Was one fantasy point away from winning my 4 for 4 for 1K. Chris Smith leaving a super chat says, I smacked for $1,500 thanks to Vucevic points and Wes Matthews points. Love it. Louis Pena's in the building. Good morning. Only 18 likes. Come on, people. Give the folks a minute to wake up. You know, I'm sure there's people out there sipping on their coffee, sipping on their 5-hour energy, sipping on their energy drinks. You know, they're still trying to wake up. But yeah, I was heavy on OG Anunoby again yesterday. I mean, when we started the live stream on yesterday's show, he was at 18.5 points. For whatever reason, I guess they thought Scotty Barnes was going to play, so they bumped him down to 17.5 points, which was only 1 point higher on Anunoby than it was the game before. I was high on him because his hit rates were perfect, both against Philadelphia and in games without Scotty Barnes. And guess what? OG Anunoby delivered once again. He delivered again. He's still perfect in hitting the over on his points prop. He's still perfect on hitting the over on his three-point makes with Scotty Barnes out of the lineup. So OG Anunoby still doing his thing, man. He is not slowing down. So shout out to anybody that took OG Anunoby. I know we talked about him in yesterday's live stream. We talked about him inside the Patreon Discord channels. You guys are giving praise to Bruce Brown, the real hero of the Brooklyn Nets, right? Bruce Brown came through big. I know some folks were on the Goran Dragic PRA as well. We talked about that one yesterday in our Patreon exclusive Discord prop talk that we do every day at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So the Goran Dragic PRA, Goran Dragic for fantasy points, that ended up coming through. He's been a pretty good look as well. So hopefully you played some Dragic. Gary Trent, wow. See, I wasn't trusting Gary Trent. But Gary Trent had himself a good game. Speaking of not trusting people, Fred VanVleet, I still don't trust you, Fred VanVleet, especially when it comes to scoring. You're doing your thing when it comes to dropping dimes, but as far as scoring points go, I ain't taking no Fred VanVleet overs on points anytime soon. I mean, the dude finished with 20 points the game before. He was at 20.5. They decided we're going to bump him up to 21.5. Fred VanVleet is shooting terribly. He's getting lots of opportunities, lots of shots, but Fred VanVleet ain't making nothing. He cannot find the freaking bottom of the net right now. So, yeah, I'm going to continue to fade Fred VanVleet. Unfortunately, if you took any Bobby Portis props, ouch. Ouch. Bobby Portis, I think he suffered some sort of injury, boo-boo, if I'm not mistaken. A little boo-boo for Bobby Portis. Fred VanVleet ended with 40.5 fantasy points out of 41. Yeah, screw that guy, all right? We don't trust Fred VanVleet anymore around here until he starts showing us he's got a pulse, that he could do something. He's got to score, man. That's a big part of Fred VanVleet's game. He's got to be getting buckets in order to hit those fantasy points, PRA and stuff. DeRozan finally woke up. Shout out to DeMar DeRozan. He finally had himself an awakening, I guess you could say. It'd been a few games for DeMar DeRozan, but he finally snapped out of it. And the Bulls snatched one from the Milwaukee Bucks, man. Middleton is out for the series with a knee sprain. Well, he wasn't really much of a factor anyway. Chris Middleton wasn't doing jack crap. He's another guy that, kind of like Fred VanVleet this series, just can't trust him to score points. And which is a shame. I mean, because we had leaned on guys like Fred VanVleet. We had leaned on guys like Chris Middleton for their buckets, for their ability to score the rock. And neither one of those guys has really shown up so far. But you never like to hear any type of injury news like that, especially for a prominent player on a team like Chris Middleton. But the Milwaukee Bucks do have Drew Holiday. I'm sure he'll step up. They've got a pretty nice little depth, as far as their bench players go. Wes Matthews had a decent little game if you took the over on his 5.5 points. Well, he drained 2 threes in the first quarter, in the first few minutes of the game, and hit the over on his points. So Wes Matthews, he's stepping up. Veteran presence there for the Milwaukee Bucks. Anything else that happened last night that we want to talk about? We hate Kyrie. We hate KD. We still don't trust Fred VanVleet. We love OG Anunoby. We love him. Pascal Siakam, not a very good game for Siakam, unfortunately. Struggled again against the Philadelphia 76ers. How about Joel Embiid? I mean, how are we not talking about Embiid? Did he just lock up the MVP award last night? Did Joel Embiid secure the MVP with that game-winning shot against the Toronto Raptors? Did he do it? I don't know. He might have. Embiid might be your MVP this year, and I ain't mad at it. If he does win, I ain't mad at it, because what I'm seeing out of Nikola Jokic so far in the series against the Golden State Warriors really isn't evoking any type of confidence for me that Jokic is the MVP. I think it's Embiid. Could be Giannis, though, too. Could be Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. He had himself a fantastic game, and I'm sure they're going to have to lean on Giannis even more going forward. So it's going to be Giannis or Embiid for me. I think Jokic is, I don't know. We're witnessing him falling apart in real time in this Golden State series. But Jeff B has some faith, though. He thinks Jokic is going to go off now that he's at home. He very well could. He very well could. We could see a resurgence here for a Joker. I mean, he's got to stay in the game, though. Can't get himself ejected like he did in the last game. But yeah, it's going to be Giannis or Joel Embiid. But a huge shot by Embiid last night. So shout out to Embiid, man. Philadelphia looking like they're going to take care of business against this Toronto Raptors squad. Speaking of taking care of business, let's go ahead and get down to business. Start talking about some of these Western Conference playoff games that are going on tonight. We got the Memphis Grizzlies at the Minnesota Timberwolves. This game, 236-point total. This is your first game of the night. Pretty nice total there. It's a little bit down from the last time these two teams faced off. I think their total last time was 240 implied points. So we're now at 236 implied points. It's a 1.5-point spread, and it's favoring the Memphis Grizzlies. No home court advantage here for Minnesota. They do not get the benefit of the doubt here. Grizzlies on the road, 1.5-point favorites. As far as injury news goes, we got Ja Morant as a game-time decision. I haven't heard anything crazy about Ja Morant. I'm sure he plays tonight, but definitely keep an eye out on that one. Moving on to the next game, it's going to be Dallas and Utah. 210 points between these two teams. 7.5-point spread. Luka Doncic, a game-time decision. Nothing really crazy going on the Utah side, so another Low scoring, slow pace type of game between Dallas and Utah, 7.5 point spread. Do we think Luka Doncic plays tonight? Do we have any definitive answers on Luka Doncic and his availability? Is he in or out? He's been dealing with a calf strain. I think they said there was a chance that he plays tonight, but I don't know if we have anything locked in just yet. 10 o'clock, the late night tip. Golden State at Denver. As we talked about, Jokic is having some struggles so far against Golden State in this series. I mean, you look at the matchup against Kevon Looney and you're like, dang, he should be dominating. But Draymond Green, his presence is real, y'all. Dude still got it. Draymond's getting up there in age, getting up there in years, but don't let the gray and the beard fool you. Draymond Green's still out there putting the clamps on folks. He's doing his thing. 223.5 points between these two ball clubs, 2.5 point spread. Andre Iguodala, game time decision. Yeah, we went ahead and started things off early, Kyle. We got this ball rolling early. There's a lot of MLB games that are starting early, and I want to get the stream done. I want to get off the stream. I want to put the work in for the Patreon members out there. Because the MLB props, man, they've been doing pretty well. We ended up cashing a 2-pick yesterday. We took Shane Bieber over strikeouts. We paired him with our man Woody, Brandon Woodruff, over 5.5 strikeouts. I put a 2-pick power play together for the community, sent that sucker out, and it ended up hitting and cashing. So shout out to anybody who tailed that pick. Anyways, speaking of picks, let's get down to business here. Let's talk about the points props of the day, right? We're going to start things off there. Appreciate everybody joining me this morning. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so at your earliest convenience. While we wait for those likes to start rolling in, we're going to take a look at these points trends provided by props.cash. If you're not using props.cash, take a look for yourself. You can sign up today, save 25% off your first month of props.cash. We got NBA playoffs rolling. We got the MLB regular season in full swing. We've got the NHL playoffs right around the corner. So props.cash has you covered for all your player prop research. Promo code Curry or the link down in the description below saves you 25% off your first month. All right, so let's talk about it here. Last 10 games, highest hit rates when it comes to points. You've got the likes of Dillon Brooks and Mike Conley Jr. up there at 80% hit rates, meaning they have gone over their points props, their points line in 8 out of the last 10 games. So those two guys, the top hitters when it comes to points props. From there, we got Will Barton and Aaron Gordon, a couple of Denver Nuggets on the board, 70% hit rates for them. Nikola Jokic, Klay Thompson, 60% hit rates for those guys. Andrew Wiggins also sitting at 60%. Jeff Green at 60%. Rudy Gobert at 60%. From there, it gets down to the 50% range. Guys like Bogdan Bogdanovic, Desmond Bane, Draymond Green down at 40%. So those are your hit rates for some of the point scores up on tonight's board. So you guys let me know if there's any point props that you want me to take a look at. Let's start things off with this dude. I mean, he's hitting at an 80% hit rate. Dillon Brooks here at 18.5. We got to take a look at it, right? So we'll pull Brooks up here using props.cash and take a further look at some of his recent game logs. The last 10 games for Brooks have been mostly good. 80% hit rate while averaging 20 points per game. But against Minnesota so far, it's been a little bit hit or miss in this series. He's faced Minnesota twice this season. Had 24 in the first game, then he fell off a cliff with just 9 points in the second game. So we're not really sure what to expect out of Dillon Brooks, right? I like consistency, and so far through 2 games, we're not really seeing a whole lot of consistency. A guy goes from 24 down to 9. That worries me a little bit. So let's take a look at his minutes. He played 35 minutes in the first game, 26 minutes, we'll call it, in the second game. So that's a pretty big difference, about 10-minute difference between game 1 and game 2. So I don't know what's going on with Dillon Brooks. His shots went from 14 down to 11, and he shot 3 for 11. So not only did he shoot fewer shots, but he also shot a worse percentage. He went 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. Just not looking good across the board here. Wasn't in foul trouble, only had 2 fouls. So Dillon Brooks just wasn't a factor in the second game. Wasn't much of a factor. Let's move forward here. Let's take a look at the last 7 games. This Minnesota Timberwolves defense, how many points per game are they giving up to shooting guards? They're actually giving up quite a few at 25.9. You can make an argument that Dillon Brooks really isn't the shooting guard. Maybe that's Desmond Bane, and Dillon Brooks is more of your small forward. Okay, I'll give you that. So let's look at the small forward spot as well. The T-Wolves versus small forwards doing a better job clamping them down. 19.89 points to be exact, almost 20 points allowed per game. That is the 5th fewest. 5th fewest in the last 7 games to small forward. So he needs 19. They're giving up a little bit more than 19, almost 20. So it's going to be kind of tough here for Dillon Brooks. It's either going to be him or Bane. One of those two guys are probably going to feast today, right? It's just a matter of who's the guy on any given night for this Memphis Grizzlies squad. Brooks, as far as points projections are concerned, a very healthy 25.5 point projection for Dillon Brooks. That's a pretty big gap. That's a 7-point difference, guys. Cross-reference this projection on some of the other sites out there. We've mentioned NumberFire, RotoWire, Betting Pros. They all offer free single stat player prop projections. Definitely cross-reference this projection. 25.5 on a prop line of 18.5. Something seems a little bit funky, a little bit fishy. Maybe they expect a bounce back game for Dillon Brooks. I really don't know. But at 18.5 on most of your sports books out there, he is a slight betting favorite to go over his prop line of 18.5. So the betting public, for the most part, early on today, are liking the over on Dillon Brooks. Let's see. I'm seeing some love for Michael Conley Jr. under 13.5 points. So you guys have no faith in Mike Conley Jr.'s ability to score versus this Dallas Mavericks ball club. Let's take a look at Mike Conley Jr. because I'm seeing more and more people feeling like, hey, I'm not afraid to take the unders now that it's playoff time. I'm seeing more people willing to take unders on some props here lately. So we got to bump Conley up to 13.5. By default, he was set at 12.5 on props.cash. Now we look at 13.5 and his hit rates do drop down quite a bit. At 12.5, he was at 80%, but at 13.5, he's at 50%. We look at the last 5 games for Mike Conley Jr. here at 13.5, which is where he's at on PrizePicks. You could see he is just 1 for 5, just a 20% hit rate. 20% hit rate. Now against Dallas this season at 13.5, he's covered this prop in 3 out of 6 games. The first 2 games of this series, 13 points and 0 points. Did not score a single point in their last matchup on April 18th. So he's 0 for 2 in this series so far, covering 13.5 points. I mean, he has shown some scoring pop. We'd have to go back and look and see who was active, who was in the game for the Utah Jazz. I mean, maybe a guy like Donovan Mitchell was out, or Bogdanovic, or one of these guys were out for some of these games here in the past. But the last 2 games, first 2 games of this series, he is 0 for 2. Not looking too promising here. Point guard position. Dallas Mavericks versus opposing point guards. How many points per game are they giving up to point guards? They're giving up just 20.2. That is the 4th fewest points allowed by Dallas to point guards in the last 7 games. So they are a tough defensive backcourt. If Luka plays, you got him, you got Brunson, you got Dinwiddie, you got some pretty tough little ball players back there. And so Conley might continue to struggle in this series. Let's take a look at a projection on his points. I got him projected for 15.3. Out on all the sports books at 13.5 points. We are seeing him being bet under minus 120 and minus 125 despite a favorable projection for Conley. Now, we'll also say this. If you are thinking about going under on Michael Conley Jr. at 13.5 points, a little piece of good news for you is that he's at 12.5 points on some of these sports books out there. So their lines makers have him a point lower on the books than they do over on PrizePicks. They don't think Michael Conley Jr. is good for they don't think Michael Conley Jr. is good for 13 to 14 points. They think he's good for 12 to 13 points, which is less than 13.5. So if you're taking the under, or if you're thinking about taking the under on Michael Conley Jr., Seeing him at a lower prop line of 12.5 has got to feel good. Got to be encouraging. Jesse, good morning to you. You're playoff ready? We're talking about Monty Morris assists. We'll take a look at them. We're focused on points props right now. So if you have points props you want me to take a gander at, let me know. Let me know. You guys are saying that Donovan Mitchell's down to 27.5 points. Now you're saying he's at 28.5 points. I'm showing Donovan Mitchell at 29.5 points. Do I need to refresh PrizePicks? Perhaps. Maybe they bumped them down. Let's take a look. I'm still showing him at 29.5 on my screen. I don't know if you're talking about sports books. Maybe you're talking about sports books Agent Zero. But PrizePicks has him up at 29.5. 29.5. Somebody else mentioned Rudy Gobert points. Was that an under? It looks like Willis Walker III. WW3, not World War III. No, Willis Walker III wants to look at Rudy Gobert under on points. Let's talk about Rudy Gobert. So we got one person saying Mike Conley Jr. under points. We got another person saying Rudy Gobert under on points. Seems like a common theme here. You guys are willing to step out now that it's playoff time and take some unders finally. I see what you're doing. All right, let's take a look at Rudy Gobert here. He's another guy who in this Dallas series so far, not really doing a good job at scoring the basketball. Not really his role, right? 60% hit rate over the last 10 games. He did have this very nice green streak of 6 games here where he went for 25, 14, 22, 20, 16, and 18. Really went on a scoring tear for Rudy Gobert standards anyway. 6 games in a row where he covered 13.5 points. But when we take a look at the Dallas Mavericks, not just in this series, but in previous games, Rudy Gobert, for the most part, not scoring the basketball very well. He's got one game where he's actually peaked at 14 points. That's the most he's scored in 5 matchups versus this Dallas Mavericks team this season. 14 points. So he would have to have a pretty special night in terms of scoring for him to hit the over. So if you're leaning toward the under on Rudy Gobert, I'd have to say, yeah, I can't be mad at that. He scored 5 points in game 1, 8 points in game 2. So he's not really out there shooting the basketball a whole lot. He's getting minutes, though, 35, 37 minutes. The minutes are there. But look at these field goal attempts. He shot the ball 1 time in game 1, went 0 for 1. He shot the ball 5 times, started to step his shots up in game 2, but went 2 for 5. 2 for 5, right? I mean, yeah, maybe he shoots the ball 5 or 6 times and hits every single shot, but how often is that happening? I mean, that's what happened here on February 25th, the one game where he actually went over his points prop in the 5 games that he's played Dallas. So this is kind of a outlier, right? Kind of an enigma. I would not expect Rudy Gobert to go perfect from the field in his limited field goal attempt. So I'm with you. For those of you who are thinking about going under on Rudy Gobert at 13.5 points, I'm not seeing a lot of positivity and encouraging signs that he's going to go over his points prop, right? He's not shooting the ball a whole lot. And when he does shoot, his field goal percentage, not all that great. So as far as Dallas against opposing centers, let's go take a look at this matchup. Last 7 games, Dallas giving up about 22 points per game to opposing centers. You can kind of see where that ranks them. Right around the bottom 10. In other words, this is a difficult matchup for Rudy Gobert. They're giving up about 22 per game to bigs. He needs like 14, but he's just not shooting the ball. And that's not really his role. He's more of a pick and roll kind of guy, an alley-oop lob guy, an offensive rebound putback type of guy. I mean, that's where he's typically going to get his buckets. So if those things aren't falling in place for Rudy Gobert, well then he's in trouble when it comes to scoring points. So here we go. Another case of a projection. Very favorable projection for Rudy Gobert in his points prop. They think he's going for about 18 points tonight. Again, projections, they're not the end-all be-all. They're not concrete. They're not solid, all right? They're not. So definitely cross-reference this projection on some of the other sites out there. At 13.5 points, though, we are seeing him as a betting favorite to go under. minus 125, minus 118, minus 130. So again, this is another one of those props where the public just not showing too much faith in Rudy Gobert going for 14 or more points. So I feel you, man. For those of you wanting to go under on Rudy Gobert or under on Mike Conley Jr., I totally get it. Which one out of the two, let me ask you this, guys. Which one out of the two prominent players, obviously, for the Utah Jazz, Conley and Gobert, which one do you feel more confident about going under on? Would you rather go under on Gobert or would you rather go under on Conley's points? Which one do you feel better about going under on? More confident in going under on? Sean says that Donovan Mitchell has openly said and openly admitted that he does not want to pass the ball to Rudy Gobert. Okay, well, now that we know that, and we know that Donovan Mitchell is pretty much the engine running the offense for the Utah Jazz, maybe we don't trust Rudy Gobert. If he's openly admitting and openly saying, hey, I don't want to pass the ball to Rudy Gobert, well, hey, we got to take the man for his word, right? King Chris says, these playoffs just make no sense so far. You get it, bro. I mean, that's true, right? So we kind of stepped into game one, had a little bit of an idea of how things might play out. And then you watch how these games play out. Game two, teams make adjustments, right? Teams make adjustments. And then, you got that. So game three is really going to be like maybe the most telling game of them all. You had game one kind of going into it blind, going into it dark. You had game two, teams made adjustments based on what happened in game one. Now game three is really going to be like, all right, we kind of get a good idea of our opponent, of what's going to happen here, our success or our path to victory. So it'll be interesting to see some of these game threes play out. Dominic DiMaggio, love that name, man. That's a hell of a name. Dominic DiMaggio wants to know about Will Barton over on points. Let's talk about Trill Will. He's at 15.5 points going up against Golden State tonight. Will Barton. Let's get into it. Another thing that I'll mention when it comes to some of these playoff games, have you guys noticed it seems like the superstars, the ones that we're like, hey, this guy's going to ball out this series. Hey, this guy's going to dominate these playoffs. It seems like those guys are taking a step back, and these role players like Bruce Brown and Goran Dragic and I don't know who's another one. Nick Claxton, like coming off the bench and stealing minutes from Andre Drummond. You got a guy like Steven Adams who can't seem to stay out on the floor, and he's off on the bench. And then you got Brandon Clark coming off the bench, balling out, hitting his PRA and stuff. It's like very weird, very weird. A lot of role players stepping up, and a lot of these superstars, either they're getting locked down, locked up, or whatever, and then you get these role players stepping up. But anyway, I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but it seems to be the case. Guys like your KDs, your Kyries taking a step back. Even Jokic kind of down. Embiid kind of down this series. And a lot of these role players are stepping up. Hugo saying that they didn't take a step back. They're getting clamped. Well, the Boston Celtics defense are absolutely stout, bro. Boston's for real. Boston is for real. Anyway, you guys want to know about Will Barton's points. Let's talk about him. 7 for 10. He's hit the over in 70% of his last 10 games. Against Golden State here. He's played them 5 times this season. He's had some pretty big games, including game 1 of this series where he had 24 points. Came back in game 2 with just 12. So he's kind of in that Dylan Brooks category, right? Where it's going to be kind of hard to trust this guy. Any given night, he could go for 20 or more points. We know what Will Barton's capable of. Had a great game 1, came back game 2, just wasn't looking like the same dude. We look at the minutes for him. Barton played over 35 minutes in game 1. We saw a decrease in minutes in game 2, playing about 31. His shot attempts, 18 in game 1, down to 15 in game 2. So everything was down for him. He shot 56% in game 1. Game 2, just 33%, 5 of 15. Not a good field goal percentage for Will Barton. As far as 3-point attempts, those were also down. Did hit 2 out of 4, though, so he's 50%. Did not get to the free throw line. Was not in any kind of foul trouble or anything either. So, just a little bit of a down game for Barton. Minutes were down. Field goal attempts were down. Field goal percentage was down. 3-point attempts were down. Everything was down for Will Barton. So overall, 4 games against Golden State, 2 for 4 at covering his prop. Again, just would like to see a little bit more consistency out of Will Barton, but guys like him, Dillon Brooks, you just never know. On any given night, you just never know what we're going to see out of these guys. Anyway, the Golden State Warriors, in the last 7 games against opposing shooting guards, given up a healthy 22.1 points. We talked about Barton. He needs 16 for the over. They're giving up over 22 per game. So, I mean, yeah, the matchup, doable. It's doable for him to hit the over if he's playing the minutes, if he's taking the shots, and if he's obviously making the shots. At 15.5 points, not seeing a whole lot of action here on this prop early on. At 15.5, he's being bet under on a lot of these sites. Minus 115, minus 116. These aren't major unders. But he does have a favorable projection once again at 17.3 points. So a lot of these projections are liking the over here. What I would recommend is looking for the biggest differentials between the projections and the prop lines, right? And then you just kind of go with it from there. So we saw a huge one earlier. Who was that? Who was one of those first ones that we looked? Was it Dillon Brooks that had a pretty significant point differential? I mean, maybe you go the over on Dillon Brooks, but that's what you got to do. You got to kind of look at the projections and look at these numbers on PrizePicks and just look for the biggest differentials, the biggest gaps, and kind of go from there. Let's see. Any other points props that you guys would like to take a look at? Lewis, you're talking about some Jordan Poole over on points at 22.5. Hey. Jordan Poole's going to get paid one day, guys. I don't know if he's still on like a rookie contract or something like that, but Jordan Poole's going to get paid one day. I'm telling you. This kid has been awesome. I mean, listen, I'm gonna commit some slander here against Steph Curry, but is it getting to the point where Jordan Poole could potentially be the successor to Steph Curry? Like, do you ever see a scenario where Golden State's like, hey, Curry's getting up there in years. How many more years does he really have in his prime, in his peak? We're already starting to see a little bit of decline on Steph Curry. Maybe we could flip him. Maybe we could trade him for something while he's still got a little bit of tread on the tires and turn the keys over to Jordan Poole. Do you think Golden State would do something like that? With the way that Jordan Poole has really come into his own last season and especially this season. Am I talking crazy? I might be talking crazy, man. Listen, I'm crazy. I might be talking crazy. But could you see Jordan Poole possibly taking over for Steph Curry and then they send Steph Curry on his way somewhere? I don't know that they would do it. He might be a made man. You're right, Devin. Devin, you're right. He is the Warriors. You are right, man. He is absolutely 100% the Warriors. He's a made man. Could be a Warrior for life. But I'm just saying, at what point do you take the reins off of Jordan Poole and just say, hey, man, run wild, run wild? And if they don't get rid of Curry, maybe they get rid of Clay. Can Curry and Poole work together in that backcourt? I could see them being maybe more willing to trade Klay Thompson than Steph Curry. So I'll give you that. Anyway, JP, Mr. Jordan Poole at 22.5 points. We're taking a look at the last 10 games. 60% hit rate. 6 out of 10. In this series so far against the Denver Nuggets, he has been fantastic. To say the least, fantastic. 30 points in game 1, 29 points in game 2. Listen, if you're Steph Curry, you got to be feeling a little pressure, right? This young guy's coming off the bench. Now he's like taking some minutes. Now he's starting to take over a little bit. I know Curry's coming off of an injury. I know he's still kind of working his way back. He's in his way back in, and I get it. Look, we'll cut Curry a little bit of slack. But Jordan Poole, man, greatness. He's been fantastic. 30 points and 29 points in games 1 and 2. So if you want to go over on Jordan Poole at 22.5 points, I'm with it. I can't be mad at you. Cannot blame you. He has been very good. He's hit the over on 22.5 points against this Denver Nuggets team in 3 out of 5 games. 3 out of 5 games. As far as minutes go, Curry's back. Yeah, Curry's back, but he's still getting 30 minutes, 33 minutes. He actually got more minutes in game 2 than game 1. So 30 plus minutes for Poole. Shot attempts actually went up from game 1 to game 2 from 13 to 16. Look at the field goal percentage. 69%, 63%, 62%, 58%, 55%. For a guard to be shooting this well against the team is really impressive. Really, really impressive. 55, 58, 62, 69, and 63%. For a guard to have anything over 50% from the field, I mean, that's really good. Even 60% is just outstanding. He's been playing great. All right? He's been playing great basketball. Let's take a look at the matchup here. Point guards versus the Denver Nuggets. Denver giving up the first most points in the last 7 games to point guards at nearly 30 per game. 29.8 points per game by the Denver Nuggets in the last 7 games to point guards. We could even take a peek at the shooting guard spot if you want. Denver giving up 25 points per game to shooting guards, so they suck against opposing guards, whether they're point guards, whether they're shooting guards, whether they're combo guards like a Jordan Poole, just not guarding guards very well. So taking a look at Poole here, he is projected for exactly 22.5 points. That's where his line is over on PrizePicks. That's where his line is over on a sports book like DraftKings. And at 22.5, we're seeing the public showing early signs of an over for Jordan Poole. For an over. Yeah, Poole's just been awesome, man. He has been awesome. He's really earned my respect. Definitely earned my respect. Let's see here. What other points props? I see DSS 197 is asking about Bogdanovic or Donovan Mitchell points. Let's talk about Bog. Because we've seen this guy, his point prop, slowly climb in this series. What did he start out in game 1? 18.5? 17.5? I mean, this dude's up to 20.5 now. Paying quite a hefty price here for Bogdanovic, but for good reason. We'll take a look at it and tell you why it's totally justifiable for him to be at 20.5 points. We look at the last 10 games for Bogdanovic here. He's 7 for 10, a 70% hit rate. This is another prime example of what I was talking about before, where some of these big name guys, listen, I know Gobert's not a great scorer. I know Conley Jr. is an okay scorer, but these guys are starting to fade back. And then you're starting to see these like third and fourth options on the team really start to step up. This is another prime example of that. Bogdanovic in this series has been lights out. And so they've jacked his point prop up to 20.5. But even at 20.5, you're going to be looking at these game logs against Dallas. You're going to be like, dang, it's still doable. Still doable at 20.5. He's hit the over against Dallas this season in 4 out of 5 games. One game he had 18. So you're talking about one more triple. One more three-pointer goes down for him in that game back in February, and he's at 21, hitting the over again. So he was one shot, one three-point shot, one three-point make away from hitting the over in that one. So overall, 80% hit rate versus Dallas this season. In this series so far, 26 points in game 1, 25 points in game 2. So it's almost like the Dallas defense is like, hey, we're going to take Gobert away, or we're going to take Conley. We're going to make one of these role players step up, and step up is exactly what Bogdanovic has done. 26 and 25. He just continues to play very well against this Dallas Mavericks team. Now, if Luka's back, I would expect that defensively they get a little bit better. Maybe not a whole lot. I don't think Luka's a two-way player like Kawhi Leonard or something when Leonard's healthy, but I think defensively they get a little bit better with Luka. Will that shake things up for Bogdanovic at all? I don't know. Will they put Luka on Bog? I don't know. We'll have to see how they match up. We have not seen Luka in this series thus far through 2 games. So anyway, Bogdanovic has been playing very well against the Dallas Mavericks. He's getting a ton of minutes too in this 2-game series so far. Over 40 minutes per game in games 1 and games 2. So they're just running him. And not only is he getting minutes, but he's getting shots up. 20 shots in the first game, 15 shots in the second game. So a 5-shot difference, but he still hits the over because he shot 60%. And he got to the free throw line 7 times and knocked down 6 out of 7 from the charity stripe. So Bogdanovic very much involved in this offense. So if you're wanting to take the unders on Gobert, under on Conley, for good reason. This guy right here is really helping to carry the offensive load for Utah so far. Small forwards against the Dallas Mavericks. How many points per game is Dallas giving up to opposing small forwards? They're giving up about 22 to 23 points per game. Bogdanovic needs 21 for the over, so there's definitely some upside here for him. You can see where Dallas ranks closer to the top than the bottom, so the matchup, a friendly one for Bogdanovic. Projected for 24.3 points according to Action Labs. We're seeing his prop line at 2 different numbers out there. 2 different numbers. And the fact that we're seeing him at 21.5 on some sports books, if you are thinking about taking the over on Bogdanovic at 20.5, I would say that that's encouraging. When you see a sports book have a line up at 21.5, we're getting him at 21 or 20.5. That's a 1 point value, 1 point difference. At 21.5, they're betting the under. At 20.5, they are betting the over on these sports books. So, these lines makers think 21 to 22 points is a possible outcome here for Bogdanovic. That's why they've set the line at 21.5. He's at 21.5 everywhere except for FanDuel. So you are getting 1 point of value on Bogdanovic. So I ain't mad at you for wanting to take the over. Let's see. Other points props. Trevor, you are welcome for the OG Anunoby pick. He went over his points and his 3-point makes. Just looked too good to be true. Too good to be true. Leroy, you're asking about Ant-Man. Okay, we could look at some Anthony Edwards. This guy right here, listen, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, all right. He had dominated against Memphis through a few regular season games, hit the over, 20-plus points, even 30 points in some of these games against Memphis in the regular season. I was like, maybe he just had a bad game 1. I'll go back to it, game 2. No. Game 2, he wasn't scoring either. So I'm kind of like, I'm done with this guy. I know this isn't Anthony Edwards, but while we're talking about Minnesota Timberwolves and points props, I just have to say, I can't trust D'Angelo Russell. Can't trust him to score. Regular season dominance doesn't matter come playoff time, apparently, because D'Angelo Russell's fallen off a freaking cliff and he's not scoring the rock very well. Anyway, Anthony Edwards, 23.5 points. This is the guy, the man of the hour, the one you guys wanted me to talk about. So let's talk Ant-Man. Ant Edwards, by default, is going to come up at 24.5 points on Props.Cash. Make sure that you knock him down to 23.5 so that you can be in line with what PrizePicks is doing here at 23.5. The last 10 games for him, not bad at 60%. A little inconsistent. And that's really the difference between a good and a great player. And in some cases, a young player and an established veteran player is that the more established veteran players who are great players are consistent players. They could come out there and put up 25 points a night, any given night. This guy, on the other hand, he's still young. He's still figuring things out. So he'll have these games where it's 18 points or 8 points or 20 points, which are good games, but they're not elite level games, right? So Edwards, we got to cut him a little slack. He's still a young wolf for this Minnesota ball club. We bump him down to 23.5 points, and it's kind of like we talked about with Will Barton, with Dylan Brooks. Good game 1s, game 2s, not so good. Hit in the first game, missed in the second game. We look at the last 5 games here for Anthony Edwards against this Memphis Grizzlies club, 50%. So the inconsistencies are what worry me a little bit about a guy like Anthony Edwards. Yes, he has tremendous scoring upside and potential. 36 points in game 1. We go back to January 13th, 30 points against Memphis, 27 back in November. He can go for 25 to 30 points or more on any given night, right? We know what he's capable of. Let's just take a look at this a little bit closer here. Game 1, he played over 40 minutes. Game 2, 34 minutes. So the minutes were absolutely down, significantly down, right? 6 minutes is a lot of time. I mean, that's a few extra shots probably in that 6-minute time span. Would it have made a difference? Maybe. Maybe he drains a couple more buckets and ends up at 24 points instead of 20. in those 6 extra minutes, that difference there that you're seeing here, that gap. Let's look at the field goal attempts. Minutes were down, field goal attempts were also down, as were the field goal percentage. 23 shot attempts in game 1. He had 16 shot attempts in game 2. That's a pretty big difference. Not only is he shooting less, but the field goal percentage was down. So those two things, compounding issues that plagued Anthony Edwards in game 2. We look at the three-point attempts. Those were pretty healthy still at 11 in game 1, 10 in game 2. He knocked down 4 from beyond the arc in both of those games. So if he's going to keep shooting 10 or more threes, maybe we look at his three-point prop instead of his point prop. He's 4 for 11 game 1, 4 for 10 in game 2. That could be a good way to go. He also did not do as well of a job at getting to the free throw line. So everything was pretty much down except for his three-point attempts. So that's something worth considering. Maybe his three-point prop, despite the fact that he played 6 or 7 less minutes, stayed pretty consistent, relatively high at 10 attempts. We look at the foul trouble. He has been in foul trouble in 2 games throughout this series. 5 fouls in game 1, 4 fouls in game 2. Probably another one of those signs of him just being a young player, right? He's going to find himself getting his hands on other players and getting called for little ticky-tack fouls and stuff like that. They've been calling a lot of fouls throughout these playoff games. If you have not noticed, they have been blowing that whistle. Blow the whistle. Is that too short? Blow the whistle. Anthony Edwards against this Memphis Grizzlies team. Grizzlies are giving up over 25 points per game to opposing small forwards. That's a pretty good number, 6th most. So the matchup is there. It's looking good for Ant. We move forward here. We look at the projected points, 25.1 projected points, which is more than the 23.5. What's encouraging here is that we're getting a point of value on Anthony Edwards on PrizePicks. So what I mean by that is he's at 23.5 on PrizePicks, but he's at 24.5 everywhere else. Some of these sites at 24.5, we're seeing action on the over, like a points bet. Some of these other sites, though, 24.5, action on the under, minus 120, 114, 125 to go under. So if you're a little shaky about Ant Edwards on his points, one thing that has been consistent for him through 2 games is his 3-point attempts and his 3-point makes. So maybe you go there. I mean, he could hit 20 points, fall short of his point prop, but still hit the 3-point prop like he did in game 2. So just something kind of worth considering for Anthony Edwards. We're still talking points, folks. We're still covering points. We're still on points. I know. You guys got PRA and some other things you want to look at. We're still talking points. Hold off on those. We'll get to those in just a minute. Dragoon wants to know about Dorian Finney-Smith over points. Well, if Luka's back, I don't know. I don't have anything as far as a projection as of right now. I think they're still waiting on the Luka news. Obviously, that's huge, impactful injury news. So I don't have anything for that right now. I don't even know if I have a projection for Finney. No, I don't. Nobody's going to have anything on these Dallas lines until Luka's announced in or out. So we're going to hold off on that. YouTube is going to be bumping the like line from 99.5. What are they going to raise it to? You think they're going to go up to like 101.5 maybe? Raise it by like 2 likes? Yeah, hit the like while it's still at 99.5. Let's hit that over 100. Karl Anthony Towns, you guys are wanting to go under on his points. Some folks are talking about going under on the big cat. Well, listen. He served us up a terrible taco on Tuesday. Karl Anthony Towns, despite the discount, could not get the job done, covering his PRA. That was PRA. So now we're going to look at his points. At 25.5, just a 40% hit rate over the last 10 games. Not good. We look at what he's done against Memphis this season. They've played each other now 6 times. 6 games, he's only hit the over at 25.5 in 1 of 6. A 17% hit rate. Game 1, he did hit the over. So did Anthony Edwards. Game 2, both of these guys struggled. So let's take a closer look at this. What happened? Well, the minutes were down for Karl Anthony Towns first and foremost. 43 minutes in game one, just 28 minutes in game two. Got to imagine if he keeps his nose clean, keeps his hands to himself, then he'll probably be back up there around 40 minutes again tonight. He shot the ball 18 times in game one, went 11 of 18, 61%. That's very good. And really his field goal percentage was still solid at 57%, but the field goal attempts, 11 fewer field goal attempts in game two versus game one. That's got to change. Karl Anthony Towns cannot afford to be out there shooting just 7 times. They need him to attack. But I think he got in foul trouble. Let me see if I'm right on that. Yeah. Foul trouble do that to you. So he had 3 total fouls in game one, 5 fouls in game two. So I said, again, if he keeps his nose clean, if he stays out of foul trouble, which seems to be kind of difficult for him for whatever reason against this Memphis ball club, had 4, 5 in some of these previous matchups prior to these playoff games. If he can keep his nose clean, stay out of foul trouble, he's going to play more minutes. And we know he's going to be taking some shots like he did in game one, 18 attempts. Even these previous games, 19, 17, 20. But it's all about staying out of foul trouble for Karl Anthony Towns. If he could stay out of foul trouble, he's out on the court. This game will be more competitive. He'll shoot the ball more. So you got to dig in a little bit deeper on some of these props and kind of get to the root of the issue, the root of the matter. Why did he only have 15 points? Well, it's not like he shot the ball bad. It was because he was in foul trouble and just didn't have a lot of shot volume. So if that volume returns tonight, then I think there's a good shot he goes over 25.5 points. But you never know what's going to happen, right? With the refs and their whistles blowing, the whistle on these guys. You never know. Anyway, what I can tell you is that the Memphis Grizzlies are giving up about 29 points per game to opposing centers. Karl Anthony Towns, as far as scoring centers, scoring bigs go, one of the better ones in the league when he's actually out on the floor. So there's that. And then I got him projected for 29.1 points. At 25.5 points, he is a betting favorite to go under at 25.5. He's a betting favorite to go under at 26.5. So it really just comes down to, can Karl Anthony Towns stay out of foul trouble? If he does, then he will be right there around 25 to 26 points. But that's it. LaShonda's making a point that besides the foul trouble, kind of what I was alluding to earlier, some of these big name players, your Karl Anthony Towns, your KDs, your Kyries, and so on and so forth, they're just kind of getting clamped. They're kind of getting locked down. Defenses are keying in on the star players and trying to make more of these role players beat them, right? More of these tertiary players, so to speak, these ancillary players on the beat them. All right, we'll talk about Phoenix and New Orleans tomorrow, gang. Hold off on those. Agent Zero, you want to know about Donovan Mitchell? We'll talk about him. Anthony Avedzian. Am I saying that right? We did talk about Jordan Poole points. We did. You're a little late, but we did talk about Jordan Poole and his points. I think you just keep going back to it until they drain the pool. You keep going back to Poole until the pool's drained, until they close the pool down for the summer because somebody pooped in it. You keep going back to Poole points. Donovan Mitchell. You guys want to talk Donovan Mitchell? He's at 29.5 points. Sounds pretty high for Donovan Mitchell. Let's dig into it a little bit deeper here, though. Donovan, Spider-Man. Donovan Mitchell at 29.5 points. You're going to look at the last 10 games and be like, it's not so great. But in this series so far, he's doing work. 32 points in game one, 34 points in game two. In previous games versus Dallas, he had 33. Sandwiched in between there, a couple of bad performances, 17 points and 12 points. So it's really been Donovan Mitchell and Bogdanovic carrying the offensive load. Guys like Conley, guys like Gobert, really not factors in terms of shooting the ball, right? But yeah, he's 2 for 2 so far in this series against Dallas. 4 for 6 overall, 67%. We go and look at the minutes. They are healthy. They are definitely up for Donovan Mitchell. 41, nearly 42 in game 1. 41 minutes. So he's going to be out there playing. And look at these field goal attempts, gang. Sheesh. 29 shot attempts in game 1. 30. My man shot the ball 30 times in game 2. Even if he just slightly improves on this field goal percentage, if he's shooting 29 and 30 times, if he just makes 1 or 2 more shots, I mean, he should be hitting the over on 29.5 points. He's shooting the ball 29 and 30 times. I mean, these are like Allen Iverson type numbers, these field goal attempts. Kobe-esque with the amount of shots that this dude's taken. Took 6 threes and 10 threes in games 1 and 2. Don't know if I like his 3-point props quite as much. I think I would like his points more than 3-point makes. He hit 2 in game 1, 3 in game 2. Not shooting a great percentage though, 33 and 30. Nor has he really shot a good 3-point field goal percentage versus Dallas in any of the previous games. I mean, we're talking 14%, 22%, 25%, and then 33 and 30. He had one game where he went 7 for 12, went off on that game. But otherwise, doesn't shoot very well from beyond the arc against Dallas. Free throw attempts, those are pretty healthy. I mean, he got to the line 11 times in game 1, shot 10 for 11. So he's making them when he gets there. 5 for 5 in game 2. So there's that. He's not really in foul trouble, hence why his minutes are up at 40, 41. So yeah, Donovan Mitchell's been doing very well. He's shooting the hell out of the ball. I mean, he's getting a lot of shots up. Lots of shots up. As far as the matchup goes, this Dallas Mavericks team, I'm not really too worried about the average here. 21.5 points allowed per game to shooting guards. This guy's going to keep shooting. 29 and 30 shot attempts. Forget the matchup. Forget what the paper says. We ain't worried about the paper matchup, right? Mitchell's going to get plenty of opportunities to score points. You are paying a little bit of a premium, though, at PrizePicks, 29.5 points, because we're seeing him at 28.5 on a lot of these sites. I would be very quick to take the over at 28.5 points. He is a betting favorite to go over at 28.5. But at 29.5, I can understand why you're hesitant a little bit. But if he's going to continue to shoot the ball about 30 times a game, if he can improve on that field goal percentage just a little bit, get closer to 50%, then he should be in line for a shot at going over 29.5. But the shots are definitely there, man. The volume is crazy for Donovan Mitchell. Kevon Looney, 3.5 points. You guys want to go here? You want to go Kevon Looney at 3.5 points? Really? Look, I ain't going to go deep into this one. I'm just going to give y'all, I ain't going deep on Kevon Looney's 3.5 points here. What I would tell you is that he is projected for 4.2. At 3.5 points, he is a slight betting favorite. I'll just pop these last couple of game logs up. He's 1 for 2 at going over his points. I ain't going there. You guys, if you like pain, if you like to torture yourself, take Kevon Looney's points, but I ain't going there. There's better options, man. Chill Robots, shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Good morning to you as well. I am well. I'm doing okay. But yeah, we ain't going Kevon Looney. I ain't going Kevon Looney. Ja Morant. What do we do with Ja Morant? What do we do with Ja Morant? We want to play him because he's good at basketball. What do we do, though? What do we do? Do we take the over or under? Well, he's at 29.5 points. If you must take Ja Morant. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of it. Whether you should be going over or under on his 29.5 points. 30% hit rate. Not great over the last 10 games. Versus Minnesota this season, he has played them 6 times. He has only gone over 29.5 points in 2 out of 6. So what would you do? I mean, he's averaging 22.5 points versus Minnesota through 6 contests. This would indicate he's going to have a special game like he did in game 1 in order for him to hit the over at 29.5. But, it's like a lot of these other guys. Strong game 1s. These young players come out. They lay an egg in game 2. Minnesota adjusted apparently. Maybe they didn't. Maybe his minutes were down. Let's look at it. 35.4 minutes in game 1, 29.9 minutes. So there is a significant minutes gap there, about 5 to 6 minutes difference between games 1 and 2. So I'm guessing the minutes were down, so the field goal attempts were also down. Despite him shooting the ball 2 times less in game 2, his field goal percentage was 9 of 16. It was actually up 56% versus 44% in the previous game. So he's not getting Donovan Mitchell type of volume. He's not getting 40 minutes a game either like Donovan Mitchell. Just, to put those guys in kind of comparison there. He's not shooting a ton of threes. 0 for 2 in game 1. 2 for 4 in game 2. Not a big-time three-point taker. His free throw makes had a lot to do with him hitting the over on his point prop. I mean, you start digging into some of these numbers, you're like, golly, this dude went to the free throw line and shot 20 free throws in game 1, 16 for 20. He was getting a lot of calls. Don't know what happened. Don't know if he changed the way he was playing the game or what from game 1 to game 2. He went from taking 20 free throws in game 1 to just 4 in game 2. Now, I can't say that the 5-minute difference is to blame for a difference of 16 free throw attempts. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't in attack mode quite as much in game 2. Does he get back to that tonight? Putting himself in positions to get fouled a little bit more and get back to the free throw line. It seems like he's going to have to in order to hit the overs. I mean, you look at the games where he's hit the over on his points prop. 33 back in November, 32 here in April. What do you also notice here? In those games, he shot 12 free throws, 10 for 12, 20 free throws, 16 for 20. So there's a correlation here. Very clearly, if he's going to hit the points prop, he's going to need to get to the free throw line and make a good number of free throws. They go hand in hand. Free throw attempts and makes and his point prop hitting. I think that's easy to kind of come to that conclusion, to make that connection. So it's all up to the refs in this case. Are they going to be blowing that whistle or are they going to swallow that sucker tonight? We don't know. Ja Morant here at 29.5 points. The matchup's not bad. Minnesota is giving up over 26 points per game. That puts them inside the top 10. So the very favorable matchup. Not really worried about the matchup. It's not the matchup that's going to stop him. He's projected for about 31 points tonight at 29.5. Early numbers indicating that we should be taking the over on Ja Morant. They're leaning over on Morant. So, big drop off in his free throw prop or free throw makes from game 1 to game 2. What's up, Mr. Rogers? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we went ahead and started the stream at a little after 10 instead of 11 today. So, you're not late. I'm just early. I think that's the better way to put it. Anyway, I think that's, we can move on from points. We've been talking points for doggone a freaking hour now almost. What about assist props? We're going to get through these pretty quick, I think. But if there's any assist props you're liking, let me know. Thank you to everybody who's just now getting here. When you get a moment, hit that like button for me. Appreciate all the love, all the support. Let's take a look at the top hitters as far as assists go for today's NBA slate. We got Will Barton at 3.5 assists, 70%. We got Bogdanovic of the Jazz, 1.5 assists, 70%. We got Mike Conley at 4.5, 60%. Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 assists. He's sitting at 60%. We got Desmond Bane at 60%. Monty Morris at 60%. Ja Morant at 60%. And then from there, it's 50% or worse. Tell me what assists you're liking. Yeah, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Had to jump on here early, man. There's a lot of MLB games, and I want to make sure that I can get off of here, spend a little time doing some MLB research for the Patreon gang out there. We've been hitting some nice strikeout props, so I want to make sure that I can devote some time to those MLB props. What's up, Broderick? Thanks for being here. All right, let's look at these assist props. One that's catching my eye, DeQuante is asking about Jokic. He's wanting to take the under on Jokic and his assist prop at 7.5. Let's take a look at Joker Gang. Let's take a look at Nikola Jokic because this guy, as my man David, a.k.a. Whodat if you're in the Patreon, has pointed out, Jokic against Golden State really does not cover a whole lot of props against Golden State. At 7.5 assists over the last 10 games, he's 4 for 10, 40% hit rate. Against Golden State, he's got a decent hit rate here at 50%. But I will mention in games 1 and 2, he's only had 6 and 4 assists respectively, both unders. So he is now 0 for 2 in this series so far against the Golden State Warriors and covering 7.5 assists. So 0 for 2. Now, of course, he did get ejected in the last game, played just 28 minutes in that one. We got to put that out there. We got to throw that out there. That probably impacted things a little bit. But 6 assists in game 1, 4 assists in game 2. We'll skip ahead here, look at the center position. Golden State, they're actually ranked pretty high as far as assists allowed to opposing centers. You see how many they're giving up? Just 4.2. No, the number's not great. The number's not great. It's more about where they rank, though, because we know this guy, he is an above average assist man for a center. So we take that into consideration, right? But yeah, they're giving up 4.2, but they do rank in the top 10 most assists allowed to the center position. So while he may not get 8, we do expect him to get more than 4.2, which is what Golden State's given up, right? We jump ahead here. Let's take a look at a projection for Jokic. Jokic is projected for 9.4. I kind of find that hard to believe, that projection of 9.4. I think that's too high. Can he do it? Yeah, I mean, he can. He's hit the over on his assists, like I said, in 50% of the games against Golden State this season. But I think 9.4 sounds a little too high, a little too rich. But at 7.5 assists, early indicators are that the betting public are taking the under. And they don't think Jokic is going to go for 8 assists. Yeah, no Steven Adams props up. You're right about that. What's up, Ronald's Green? Thanks for being here, bro. Poole. So we talked about Poole for points. You guys are talking about Poole for assists at 3.5. We talked about his minutes. His minutes are definitely there. 30-plus minutes in back-to-back games despite the return of Steph Curry. For those of you just getting here, I floated out the insane idea that Jordan Poole's going to take Steph Curry's job and maybe they trade Steph Curry one day. I said that. For those of you just getting here, I said that. I said maybe Jordan Poole is on the cusp of taking Steph Curry's job. Or they trade Klay Thompson away and try to make Curry and Poole work together in the backcourt. I did throw that out there as well. Is that crazy, though? Am I crazy for saying that? Jordan Poole. Last 10 games at 3.5 assists, 70% hit rate. So he's doing a good job at covering his dimes. I want to say that his PRA is typically pretty nice too. Yeah. Yeah, his PRA is kind of nice too. His PRA is kind of, I know we're not talking PRA yet, but his PRA is really nice. They're not even giving us his PRA today. You suckers. You cowards. I demand you put Jordan Poole's PRA up on the board. You won't. You PrizePicks spies that are listening in on today's live stream, I dare you to make Jordan Poole's PRA appear right now. I dare you. You won't, though. You won't. Because even if we get it at 28.5, he's hitting that. Even if we get it at 29.5, he's hitting that. Even if he's at 30.5 PRA, he's hitting that. All right, gets a little uncomfortable at 31.5, but if y'all give us his PRA at anything below 30.5, we're taking it. But you won't, will you? I bet you won't. PrizePicks, if you're listening. I dare you, though. I dare you. Anyway, Jordan Poole PRA. Yeah, buddy. They give us that at under 30.5. We're taking that. But anyway, his assists at... what are they at? 4.5, 3.5. All right, at 3.5, we could rock with the assist. 70% hit rate. It ain't hitting like his PRA's hitting. It ain't hitting like that, but it's doing pretty good here, especially against Dallas. Played them 5 times. He's hit the over in 4 out of 5 at 3.5 assists. Dropping 5, 7, 7, and 8 in the games in which he's went over, but he did have just 3 in game 1. So, did he have a really good game in game 2? Or is he going to come back down to earth at 3 or 4 assists tonight? I don't know. If he hits 4 assists, we're good. So I like Jordan Poole here. Averaging 6 assists per game versus Denver through 5 contests. You think they give us his PRA? What do y'all think? I don't think they will. It's just too good, right? I don't think they give us his PRA. As far as point guards against this Denver Nuggets squad, how many assists are the Denver Nuggets given up over the last 7 games? Pretty healthy amount, about 8 per game. They rank down toward the bottom, but the average is good at nearly 8 assists allowed per game to point guards. Because Poole sometimes, he's a combo guard. He could be a shooting guard as well. We'll also look at that. Denver giving up about 4 assists per game to shooting guards. So, not a bad matchup. However you cut it, right? Poole at 4.8 projected assists. He's a big betting favorite, minus 140. Currently at 3.5 dimes. Yeah, my number 1 pick's Jordan Poole over PRA. And it's not a lock. They won't give us that Poole PRA. I want them to, though. I want them to. Everyday Fantasy with the Super Chat. He's talking some assist props here. Let's see what he's got to say here. We got Pat Beverly, 4.5 assists. He's liking the over there. We're talking Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 assists. He's liking the over there too. Okay. Appreciate you, Don P. Thank you so much for that Super Chat, by the way. Let's start with Pat Bev. 4.5 dimes. While we're on the topic of assists, we'll take a look at both of those. Super Chat, man. Appreciate the Super Chat. Those Super Chats, man, that's like the VIP. If you got a question, a hard-hitting, pressing matter that you really want me to dig into, the Super Chat's the way to get it done, man. Plus, it's a way for you guys to show your support for what's happening here on these live streams. So we had to refresh props.cash to get that Pat Beverly assist prop loaded up. But now that we got it loaded up, we could talk about it. 3 for 10. Just 3 for 10. 30% hit rate from Patrick Beverly at 4.5 assists against Memphis. He's flirting with 4 or more assists in every game against Memphis. In this series so far, he's 1 for 2. Hit the over in game 1. Fell short. Death by hook in game 2. I look for consistency, and I don't know that I'm really getting that right here with Patrick Beverly. I mean, he's consistent with 4 or more assists. I guess you could say that, but I would like to see more consistent hit rates versus the Memphis Grizzlies, which he has not shown. Only gone over in 2 games out of a total of 6. 33% hit rate. The average is good, though, 4.7. So, there's that. As far as minutes, Beverly's floating right around 27, 29, so he's not going to hit 30 minutes in most games, most nights. Doesn't look like he's going to reach 30 or more minutes in any of those games. If he were, though, then I would really like the over there. But we need to get him up there as close as we can to 30 minutes. The matchup's right. The matchup's definitely there. Memphis has given up over 12 dimes per game to point guards. So that's the second most. He needs 5. They're giving up 12. Even shooting guards, because him, D'Angelo Russell, kind of confuses things, right? Kind of clouds the situation, muddies the waters a little bit. They're really both point guards, but they both occupy the backcourt spots for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But Memphis giving up over 6 assists per game to shooting guards. So you combine the 6 assists to shooting guards with the 12 assists to point guards. I mean, they're giving up over 18 assists per game to guards. Can he find 5 out of 18 allowed? That's really what you're hoping for, right? That he finds 5 out of the 18 that they allow on average. Beverly's projection, 5.5. That's a whole assist more than 4.5. And the betting public taking the over here on Patrick Beverly. Again, pretty consistent at 4 assists. Not the most consistent at covering 4 assists, but he's going to be right there. It's going to be a sweat. It looks like it's going to be a sweat for the most part. The other one you mentioned is Andrew Wiggins with that 1.5 assists going up against Denver tonight. We don't typically think of Wiggins as a big assist guy, which is why his prop line is down at 1.5. So we got to look at the matchup. We got to look at the hit rates. Is he getting the job done, going over 1.5 assists more often than not? That is really what we look for, right? Competence. Is he competent in going over 1.5 assists? Let's look at it. 6 out of 10, 60% hit rate. That's not bad. Last 10 games, that's not bad. Versus Denver, very strong. 4 out of 5, 80%. He has covered in his last 4 games against the Nuggets. Now, most of these games, he's not going to blow you away. I mean, he had one here where he went under, 2 and 2 so far in this series. He did have some nice pop here, though, with 4 and 5 assists, respectively, in those games from February and March. So he's averaging 2.8 against the Nuggets in 5 contests so far. So he'll be in there. He'll be in the mix. I'd be leaning toward the over based on what I'm seeing so far. I would be leaning toward the over. I think I like him a little bit more than I like Pat Bev based on what I'm seeing. Denver to small forwards giving up the 4th most assists in the last 7 games, over 6 allowed at 6.1. So positive matchup, plus matchup for Wiggins. And then last but not least, Wiggins projected for 2.4. He is a betting favorite to go over on all your sports books. And then we'll talk rebounds in just a minute. Let's just make sure that there are no other assist props out there that we're forgetting. Oh, they did. They put him up at 30.5. Look at that. Look at that. These little, ooh, we're going to talk about that when we get to PRA. We're going to talk about that just you wait. Y'all want to play games? Y'all want to put them up at 30.5 when you could have easily put them up at 29.5, 28.5? Shout out to PrizePicks for giving us Jordan Poole at 30.5. All right, what other assist props, gang? Now I'm really wanting to go jump to these PRAs. If you got any other assist props, let's talk about it. Win and Work wants to talk about Monte Morris assists. He's at 4? All right. At 4? All right. Let me refresh here. Let me just make sure I got all the prop lines the way that they're supposed to be. Boom. Okay, he's at 4. Let's talk about Monte Morris. Coincidence? Or somebody out there listening, right? With the Jordan Poole PR. Coincidence? Or somebody out there listening with the Jordan Poole PRA. Maybe we got some folks listening. That's all right. Maybe they're listening. Coincidence or not? I'll let you decide. Monte Morris at 4 assists. He has hit 4 or more assists in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10 games. 80% hit rate at 4 or better. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Against Golden State, he's played the Warriors a total of 5 times. Total of 5 times. He's hit the over in 3 out of 5. In this series so far, he has gone over in 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2. So let's look at Monte Morris a little bit more here. 31.4 minutes played in game 1. Again, another guy who suffered a setback in terms of minutes played 6 fewer minutes. You got to imagine that if he's out there for 6 more minutes like he was in game 1, that he finds that 4th assist, maybe even a 5th assist, right? 6 minutes is a pretty hefty amount of time for him to be missing when you compare game 1 to game 2. Game 1, he hits 6 assists. Game 2, with 6 fewer minutes, he hits 3 assists. I think he's good for at least 4 if he's up there around 30 minutes tonight. Got to be out there on the floor to get assists, though. Wasn't in foul trouble or anything like that. So it was not a situation where he got into foul trouble, just played fewer minutes. So if he could get his minutes back up to around 30 tonight, then I think he's good for at least 4 dimes. So I do not mind the over on Monte Morris at 4 assists. Taking a look at the projections here for Morris, or not projections, but the matchup. Golden State against point guards. Last 7 games, giving up 8.3 assists. 8.3 allowed. He's sitting at 4. 8.3 allowed, and he's sitting at 4. Monty Morris's projection is at 4.8. That is more than 4. So yes, I would be leaning toward the over on Morris. I see that he's at 4.5 on all the sports books. They're smashing the under, minus 170, minus 165, minus 145. But at 4, I'd be leaning toward the over, hoping that he gets at least 30 minutes tonight. You guys think we have some fans at PrizePicks watching? That's all right. Anybody can watch, man. Let them watch. Let's see. What other assist props do you guys like in here? Someone mentioned Josh Hart. We got Josh Hart in here? Not the Josh Hart. Not the Josh Hart from the Portland Trailblazers. But Josh Hart is mentioning Donovan Mitchell at 5.5 assists. Let's look at him. We talked about his points. I mean, dude's got tremendous shot volume. He's been hoisting them up, been jacking them up. 29, 30 field goal attempts in the first 2 games. At 5.5 assists over the last 10 games, just a 40% hit rate. We look at the matchups against Dallas. 2 for 6, 33%. I think I'm liking the points a little bit more than the assists. Being that he's getting so much field goal volume, I think I like the points more than the assists. But yeah, we talked about his minutes. 41 minutes in 2 games so far versus Dallas. In both games, 41 plus minutes. So he's 1 for 2 in this series so far. 2 for 6 against Dallas this season. As far as Dallas goes in terms of assists allowed to shooting guards, they're giving up 3.7. Not a very friendly number at 3.7. That's less than 4. He's going to need 6, so he's going to have a really special game in terms of getting those dimes. As far as his projection, projected for 6.4. That's more than 5.5. At 5.5, though, I'm seeing the betting public taking the over on Mitchell. They're betting it up. Minus 140, minus 129 on some of these books. We did not, Jeremiah, we have not talked Ja Morant. We have not talked Ja Morant. But we can. We'll make Ja Morant the last one and we'll move on to rebounds because, time and all that stuff, right? Ja Morant is at 8 assists. He's hit 8 or more assists in 6 out of his last 10. So 60% hit rate at 8 or better. As far as going over 8 assists, he's got just a 43% hit rate, or 3 for 7. Versus Minnesota this season, he's played Minnesota 6 times. Played Minnesota 6 times. He's hit 8 or more against Minnesota in 4 out of 6. So that's a pretty good hit rate, 67%. Game 1, he had 8. Game 2, he had 10. So he's hit 8 or better in back-to-back games. 2 for 2, technically, at 8 or more against this Minnesota Timberwolves squad. As far as the T-Wolves go, they're giving up the 3rd most assists to point guards in the last 7 games at 11.2. So there's definitely upside for Ja Morant at 8 assists. Getting you a projection on Morant. I got him projected for 7.6. At 7.5, he's a minus 145 betting favorite to go over. So the public really liking the over, minus 150 on some books. But at 8.5, he's a betting favorite to go under. So there you go. A little bit of info on Ja Morant and his assists. I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe I like his assists a little bit more than his points at 29.5. Because it really seems like he's going to have to be getting favorable calls. In other words, he's going to have to get to the free throw line in order to hit the over on 29.5 points. And really, that kind of comes down to the referees, to the officials. I kind of don't like that. I don't like when we have to depend on the officials in order for a guy to hit his prop. So I'd be taking the assists probably more than the points because we just don't know. It's hard to predict if he's going to get foul calls or not. He's going to need the foul calls to hit the over on the points props. So anyway, let's move on from assists. Let's talk some rebounds. You guys let me know if there's any rebound props that you're really, really liking, that's really, really standing out to you. You guys let me know. And if you're just getting here, hit the like button. Appreciate all the likes. The goal is always to go over 99.5 likes. Let's get it done, gang. Let's get it done. Hit the over for me at 99.5 likes. And we start taking a look at some of these rebound hit rates over the last 10 games. You got Rudy Gobert, Monty Morris, and Anthony Edwards all at 70%. They're your top hit rate rebounders on tonight's slate. From there, you got Aaron Gordon, Will Barton at 60%, a couple of Denver Nuggets. Moving on from them, Jeff Green, 50%, Nikola Jokic, 50%, Bogdanovic, 40%, Conley, 40%. So you kind of get an idea. The hit rates really start to drop off there. Broderick, you want to get things started by talking about Rudy Gobert at 15.5 rebounds. I think the last time we talked about Gobert and his rebound prop, he was sitting at 15 over on PrizePicks. And I was like, man, I know he can do it. But dang, that's a lot of rebounds. 15 rebounds. But time and again, he keeps coming through. Keeps coming up with 15 or more. Or going over 15 rebounds in this case. He's gone over 15.5 boards in 7 out of his last 10 games. A 70% hit rate. We look at what he's done against Dallas this season. The games that he's gone over, he's landed on 17 every single time. 17 rebounds in 3 out of 5 games. A 60% hit rate. He's 2 for 2 in this series so far with 17 boards in both games. So he's averaging 17 rebounds per game in this series to this point. Dallas's defense ranks 10th in total rebounds, 4th in offensive rebounds, but just 17th in defensive rebounds, which is where Rudy Gobert gets the majority of his boards. The offensive rebounds are highlighted in green. The defensive rebounds are red. So you can see a bulk of his rebounds obviously coming from the defensive side. So not a bad matchup for him. We go look at Dallas and how many rebounds they're allowing to opposing centers in the last 7 games. They're right up there at the 6th most, allowing over 18 rebounds per game in their last 7 games. So, plus matchup for them. Looking pretty good. As far as a projection, I got him projected for 17.2. They think he's going to go for 17 rebounds again, according to the action projections. And then at 15.5 rebounds, the public, they're going to hit the over on 15.5 yet again on Rudy Gobert. They think he gets 16 or more. So there you go. Rudy Gobert, rebound machine. Jimmy, thank you for the reminder. We do have to talk about Royce O'Neal's rebounds at 5. Once again, shout out to Everyday Fantasy, a.k.a. my man Don P. If you're in the Patreon Discord, then you know what I'm talking about. Don P. 111. Appreciate you leaving this one for me. Let's look at Royce O'Neal here. Appreciate the super chat as always. 4.5 rebounds for Royce O'Neal. He's got a 40% hit rate, but we got to bump him up to 5 rebounds. When we do bump him up to 5 rebounds, the hit rates don't change a whole lot. He's still at 40%. Versus Dallas this season, at 5 rebounds, he's hit 5 or better in 3 out of 6 games. So he's got a 50% hit rate at 5 or more boards. 50%. He is now 2 for 2 in this series, though. He pulled in 6 boards in game 1, 9 boards in game 2. So all we need out of him is at least 5 for the push, but we would like for him to get 6, which he's done in both games, 6 or better. All right, moving forward here, Royce O'Neal spending some time at the power forward position. Dallas over the last 7 games, giving up a healthy 10.7 rebounds per game to players at the power forward spot. Nearly 11 boards. My man O'Neal needs 5 or better for us to not lose any money, right? So totally doable. as he's shown in the first 2 games. And then a projection, I have him at 5.2 rebounds. He is a betting favorite to go over at 4.5 boards, minus 125, minus 130. But he's also a betting favorite to go under 5.5 rebounds at minus 145. So between 4.5 and 5.5 is 5. So there's a good chance that he ends up in a tie or a push type of situation. So there you go. That's for you, Mr. Don P. What other rebound props are you guys liking? Let's scroll through here. What's up, Isaac, man? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you popping in, Isaac. Kyle's mentioning a good one here. This is a good one. Aaron Gordon. I think it's advantageous for us to play Aaron Gordon under almost everything. Aaron Gordon versus Golden State Warriors this season just ain't getting it done. He just ain't getting it done. Let's look at the last 10 games for him. We'll bump him up to 6 rebounds. You can see what he's done in the last 10 games at 6 rebounds or better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10. So a 60% hit rate at 6 rebounds or better. But versus Golden State does seem to struggle. Games 1 and 2 finished with 5 boards and 5 boards. So he's 0 for 2 in this series so far. Now he does have some good games in him. A couple of games from earlier in the season. 9 rebounds back in February, 11 at the beginning of March. But he also had 0 in this game. No rebounds acquired by Aaron Gordon in that one. So he's now 0 for 2 in the series. He's averaging about 6 boards per game against Golden State this season. The Warriors defense, pretty good on the glass. Just 5th ranked in total rebounds allowed, meaning they're stingy. They're not giving up a ton of boards to the opposing team. 6th in offensive, 7th in defensive rebounds. We jump ahead. We take a look at how many boards they're actually allowing on average to power forwards in the last 7 games. We go all the way down to the bottom. Golden State's given up under 8 rebounds per game at 7.9. Close to 8. He needs to find at least 6 if you plan on taking the over. Could be a tough task, being that he's now 0 for 2, pulling in 5 boards in games 1 and games 2, respectively. Gordon, projection for his rebounds, 5.6. For whatever reason, there's a lot of confidence in Aaron Gordon going over 5.5 rebounds today. Minus 150, minus 135, minus 143. The public liking Aaron Gordon to go over 5.5. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I can trust this young man to do that. So, Kyle, if you want to take the under on him. Jeremiah, if you want to take the under on him. I don't blame you. Paid Bando asking about Triple J rebounds. Jaren Jackson Jr. DeQuante Perry also asking about Jaren Jackson Jr. Got a couple of folks liking some Triple J for his rebound prop today. Let's go see what that's all about. He's at 6 boards. Obviously, Steven Adams is a ghost in this series. Steven Adams, not a factor. Not a factor. So we've seen Brandon Clark really step up off the bench. Brandon Clark's been playing very well. You guys are liking Jaren Jackson Jr. He spends a little bit too much time out on the perimeter for my liking, for my taste, but I can understand. You're thinking maybe less minutes for Adams, which we've seen. Maybe that helps Jaren Jackson Jr. out. Maybe it does. I think it helps Brandon Clark out a little bit more. But when we bump him down to 6 rebounds, he's hit 6 or better in 4 out of the last 10 games. So 40% technically at 6 or more. In previous matchups versus this T-Wolves squad, he has faced the Timberwolves in 6 games. He has only covered this prop in 3 of 6. So 50% hit rate. So far in this series, 4 rebounds in game 1, 7 rebounds in game 2. Did he get an uptick in minutes? Well, he had 24 minutes in game 1. He had 26.8 minutes in game 2. So he's not really even playing a whole lot of minutes. Has he been in foul trouble? Maybe he's been fouling. Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. 5 fouls in game 1, 4 fouls in game 2. So he is another young fella that seems to slap people a lot. He's putting his hands on everybody. He's fouling. So if he stays out of foul trouble, if he gets out there and plays more than 25, 26 minutes like he's been playing, and I think he's got a real shot at going for at least 6 rebounds. Let's look at the matchup here. Power forwards versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're giving up almost 11 per game at 10.6. That's a top 10-ish type number. So matchup-wise, it's looking good for Jaren Jackson Jr. His projection today is 6.2 at 6.5 on your sports books. Betting favorite to go under at 5.5 on your sports books. Betting favorite to go over. So once again, PrizePicks taking the middle ground, taking the middle road, and putting them at 6. You guys are talking bumps. Let's refresh the board. Bumps are happening. Bumps are happening. You said Draymond Green got bumped. What did he get bumped to? 7 rebounds? Was that a bump up or a bump down? I forget. Was he at 6.5 or 7.5? Yeah. Hunter, Triple J, man, spending a little bit too much time. A little bit too much time out on the perimeter. I wish he would get himself down there in the paint. Pull some boards. All right. Okay, so he was at 7.5 and they bumped him down to 7. Gotcha. We'll talk Draymond then. We'll make that the last rebound prop, and then we'll carry on and talk some PRA. You know we got to talk about Jordan Poole. Because I prayed to the PrizePicks God, and miraculously, they heard my prayers, and they answered. They gave us Jordan Poole's PRA after I called them out. My prayers were heard. Someone out there heard Jordan Poole PRA, and they listened. So I appreciate that. Divine intervention. Let's just call it divine intervention. There are no coincidences, right? But anyway, Draymond Green at 7 rebounds, 3 for 9. At going over 7 rebounds. At 7 or better, he is 4 for 10, 40%. Now against Denver this season, even at 7 rebounds, he is 0 for 2. He's only played them in these 2 playoff games. 6 rebounds in game 1, just 3 rebounds in game 2. So if he's not getting the rebounds, who the heck is? Draymond's typically a pretty good rebounder. So they went ahead and knocked him from 7.1 or 7.5 down to 7. He's averaging 4.5 versus Denver. Denver's defense pretty good on the glass. 4th in total rebounds allowed, 7th in offensive rebounds, 5th in defensive rebounds allowed. So big 0 for 2 for Dre so far. Maybe he gets back on track at some point. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe this just isn't the series for him when it comes to rebounds. Denver giving up 8.6 boards per game to opposing power forwards. That is the 9th fewest. So the matchup is definitely not a favorable one for Draymond. His projection, Draymond Green, not Jeff Green. Draymond Green, though, projected for 8.3 at 7.5. You're seeing most of the juice, most of the action coming in under at 7.5. So there you go. Draymond Green. All right, let's move on to PRA. You know. Where's he at? You know we got to talk about this guy. You'll see why in just a moment. PRA hit rates last 10 games. Rudy Gobert sitting up at 29.5 PRA. 70% hit rate. Aaron Gordon joining him at 70%. Jeff Green, Nikola Jokic also at 70% for the PRA. From there, we've got Ant Edwards, Will Barton, Bogdanovic, Mike Conley Jr., Dylan Brooks, all hitting at 60%. Then you got the likes of Morris, Wiggins, Thompson, 50% in those hit rates for those guys. So Jordan Poole's at 30.5 PRA. Let's discuss. We refresh here, make sure we got all the latest prop data, prop lines pooled in through props.cash. Again, if you want to check out props.cash, 25% off your first month using code Curry. I've provided a link down in the description of today's video. Go check it out. That's what we're using here to find out these trends, these different hit rates, to research the game logs, and yada, yada, so on and so forth. PropStat Cash has it all. And it's not just an NBA tool. It's good for MLB. It's good for NHL. I use it for a little bit of everything. So they went ahead and gave us Jordan Poole at 30.5 PRA. Oh, let me stretch for this one. He has hit the over at 30.5 PRA in 10 out of 10 games. 100%. In those 10 games, he is averaging about 37 PRA. He needs 31. He's averaging about 37. I like it. This is probably by far the prop that he has hit with the greatest success rate in the last 10 games. Versus Denver this season at 30.5 PRA. The last 4 contests versus the Nuggets, he has hit in every single one. He is 4 for 5 against Denver at 80%. So despite Curry coming back for game 1, he ended up with 34 PRA. Game 2, he ended up with 42 PRA. He is 2 for 2 in this series so far against the Nuggets in covering 30.5 PRA. I know. Listen, anything can happen in the NBA. This guy could come out there and, I don't know, something crazy could happen, right? And he could go under. But when you see a guy who is 10 out of his last 10, you just throw it in there, man. You just throw that prop in there and you hope for the best. You just have to. The Denver Nuggets, as far as PRA allowed to point guards in the last 7 games, about 30 points. We'll call it 6 rebounds, 36, and about 8 assists on top of that. So we're like 44 PRA. He needs 31. Not bad. Shooting guards, they're giving up about 25 points, about 6 rebounds. That's 31, plus the 4 assists, about 35 PRA. So PRA could be a good look for Jordan Poole. I see somebody saying, and by somebody, I mean everyday fantasy, saying Jordan Poole for fantasy points. Well, you could go there too. 5 for 5, as we talked about on his PRA at 30.5. Let's see what Poole's fantasy is at. 32. He's 5 for 5 there too. So he's 5 for 5 on both. I think you could take it either way. David Wanker coming through with the super chat wants the world to know that Poole is 3 for 25 over 30.5 PRA on the road with Steph. On the road with Steph. Just 3 for 25. So factor that in. Take that into consideration. 3 for 25 this season on the road when Steph Curry plays. Not the greatest hit rates. So, yeah, PRA, fantasy, you could go either way. I mean, the fact that his fantasy is only 1.5 points different than his PRA, I'd lean fantasy. You get 3 for every steal, 3 for every block. Yeah, you get -1 for every turnover, but if he gets a steal or block, then typically those are going to outweigh the turnovers. Anyway, looking at those 2 lines, I think either one are fine. Either one. Let's see here. What other... Oh, sorry. We didn't get a projection for you on Jordan Poole's PRA, did we? Let's try to get one for you. Poole is projected for 31.4 PRA. He is a slight betting favorite to go under 30.5 PRA at -120. So maybe they think he regresses. Maybe to David's point, they know that he's just 3 for 25 with Steph Curry on the road covering his PRA. Yeah, there's risk. There's always risk with these props. There's definitely always risk with these props. Anything could happen, right? Jake Fagan is saying he's going to go Klay Thompson PRA, but he's going to take the under, not the over. So Klay's at 27.5 PRA. Let's see why Jake wants to take the under for Klay Thompson at 27.5. He's got a 50% hit rate. 50% hit rate over the last 10 games. Against Denver this season at 27.5. He is now 0 for 4 against the Nuggets. 24 seems to be the magic number for Klay. He's hit 24 PRA in 3 out of 4, 23 in one other game. So he's not really coming close to 27, 28. He's not getting it done. He is 0 for 4, averaging less than 24 PRA in those 4 contests. We already talked about Denver and how many PRA they allowed to shooting guards. But now, again, this doesn't mean that Klay Thompson's going to get all of these stats. They're giving up 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists for a total of about 35 PRA. Projection for Klay Thompson is 33.5. They do like him to go over, despite the fact that he's 0 for 4, despite the fact that he's never had more than 24 PRA versus Denver in any of his 4 games this season. They like him to go over. And they, I mean the betting public, are taking the over at 27.5. So there you go. Looney's lines are sad. Pretty pathetic when a guy is at 3.5 full game points, right? Somebody mentioned going under on Joker at 49.5 PRA. We talked about him earlier. I mentioned that my man David, who just left us that super chat, he was Mr. Take Joker under on everything versus Golden State. I think he was right, too, in the last game. The only thing Joker ended up hitting the over on in the last one was his free throw makes at 5.5. Otherwise, I think Jokic went under on just about everything. Now, he's at 49.5 PRA. He's got a 70% hit rate when you go and look at the last 10 games, but it's against Golden State where he has struggled at 49.5 PRA. Just 2 for 6. He is 0 for his last 3. And obviously 0 for 2 in this series so far, topping out at 41 PRA through 2 games. Now, cut him a little bit of slack on game 2 because obviously he got ejected, did not play a full run of minutes. Let's say he plays 6 more minutes. Maybe he does hit the over on 49.5 PRA with 6 more minutes of court time. Finished with 41 PRA in 28 minutes. That's pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good. He might have been on pace to hit the over. I'm just saying. We'll never know, but maybe. Looking ahead here, center position versus the Golden State Warriors. Golden State giving up about 25 points per game, about 17 rebounds, so 42 PRA, and then 4 assists on top of that. We're looking at about 46-ish PRA allowed. So that's less than what his prop line is at 49.5. So he's going to have a special game. Speaking of special games, it looks like the projection models of Action Labs expect him to have a very special game. They got him projected at 57.2 points plus rebounds plus assists. 57.2 PRA projection on a 49.5 PRA line. At 51.5 PRA, he is a betting favorite to go under. He's even as high as 52.5 PRA. So he's at 49.5 PRA on PrizePicks. We're seeing him at 2 PRA higher at 51.5. And even on some of these other sites, 3 PRA higher. I don't know if I could go under on Nikola Jokic at 49.5 PRA, being that lines makers on other books have him up at 2 and 3 PRA more than his line at 49.5. I would have to lean toward the over. I just would, just based on the lines alone, based on the value we're getting at 49.5. I would be leaning toward the over. 2 to 3 PRA is significant. Significant. I know he doesn't have very good hit rates at 49.5, but like somebody said, maybe playing at home will be the difference. He'll get some calls that maybe he wouldn't get in Golden State otherwise. But that's just too big of a difference between these lines makers on BetMGM and DraftKings and some of these other reputable sports books, 52.5 PRA. It's just too big of a difference. So either that or I'm going to fade it. Either I'm taking the over or I'm going to fade it. Let's see. Other PRA plays that you guys are liking, let me know. If you got any other ones. Broderick's asking about Bogdanovic for PRA. We've seen Bog's point line start to soar over the last game or two. His PRA is at 28.5. I'm not sure what it was historically, like in the last game or the game before that. But let's look at Bogdanovic real quick. Bogdanovic at 28.5 PRA versus Dallas this season has covered it in 3 out of 5. I think his points had a slightly better hit rate, right? No, same. 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. I guess he's just a 3 out of 5 kind of guy. Anyway, Bogdanovic, he's 2 for 2 in this series so far with 35 PRA in game 1, 30 PRA in game 2. So he's hit the over in both of the games at 28.5 PRA. So we'll jump ahead here. We'll take a look at the small forward spot versus Dallas. Dallas, last 7 games, about 23 points, 6.5 rebounds. We'll call it 29.5 given up there, and then about 3 more assists on top of that. We're looking at about 33 PRA allowed by Dallas to small forwards in the last 7 games. So there's some upside for Bogdanovic. Projection, 32.4 PRA. But despite the favorable projection, they are betting the under out on your sports books at 28.5, minus 130, minus 125. So they're taking the under on Bogdanovic. Breaking news? Jide, are you breaking some news right here? You're saying Ben Simmons will be making his debut for the Nets in Game 4. Is that confirmed? Are your sources correct? That would be big. They need something, man. They need something. Some kind of spark. Some kind of difference maker. Maybe Ben Simmons is that dude coming off the bench. Well, I'm not really seeing any other PRA options. Well, you're saying old news. R. Clemens, I think it was just rumored that he could potentially make it, but you guys are saying that it's confirmed now. So that's different. That's different than speculation. They're saying it's going to happen. Cool. Let's go 3-point makes. Let's talk about these. I think I already mentioned one earlier that was worthwhile. Anthony Edwards, he's just shooting a lot of 3-pointers so far in this series. If you don't trust Anthony Edwards for his point prop, I think a good pivot could be 3-point makes for him. At 3.5 3-point makes, he's got a 70% hit rate. Also up there, Klay Thompson at 70% on 3.5 3-point makes. Uncle Jeff Green, 60%. Mike Conley Jr., 60%. Andrew Wiggins, 60%. AG, Aaron Gordon, 50%. Bogdanovic at 50%. Dylan Brooks at 50%. Monty Morris at 50%. Donovan Mitchell at 50%. Karl Anthony Towns at 50%. So those are your different options there for 3-point makes. Like I said, Anthony Edwards, if you don't trust the points, but you still think Anthony Edwards is going to have a decent night scoring, you just don't know if his points are going to cover or not, I think his 3-point makes is a solid look. We'll just take another peek at that. We talked about it a little bit earlier. So Anthony Edwards, over the last 10 games at 3-point makes, he's hit 3 or more in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10. So an 80% hit rate at 3-point makes or better. Against the Memphis Grizzlies, he has played them 6 times this season. He's hit the over in 5 out of 6, including 4 3-point makes in game 1, 4 3-point makes in game 2. Both of those games on the road. On the road, by the way. So we could also look at that. Is he a better shooter on the road or at home? At home, 40% at 3-point makes. Away, 56%. So he is a slightly better 3-point shooter on the road than at home. Surprisingly, you would think that a guy would have a certain comfort level playing on his home court and maybe be a better shooter at home, but not the case here for Anthony Edwards. not the case. I think we still take a shot on him, especially at 3 instead of 3.5. Yeah, it could tie, it could push. But just seeing the success that he's had against Memphis at 3-3-point makes. Most of these games that he's hit were in Memphis, surprisingly. So he hit here, 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 and here. 4 out of the 5 games that he's hit were in Memphis. The 2 games that he played at home against Memphis, he hit 5 in one game, but he had 0 in another game. So maybe those splits are real for Anthony Edwards as far as being a better road shooter from 3 than a home shooter from 3. Nonetheless, the Memphis Grizzlies over the last 7 games, last 7 games are giving up 3.8 3-pointers per game to small forwards. That is the 3rd most. So again, I would be leaning toward the over on Ant Edwards. And then last but not least, a projection for Anthony Edwards. I got him projected for 3.5 3-point makes, but at 3.5, he is a minus 160 to go under on 3. So there you go. What are you guys talking about here? 20x? 20x what? 5-pick 20x? Is that something they're doing on PrizePicks? Are we talking PrizePicks doing 20x? Yeah, where are you guys seeing it? A 421 promo. Cool. Well, I'm with it. Looks like I'll have to be going in on some 5 picks. Is it sport exclusive? In other words, is it just NBA props, or can I do MLB? Can I mix sports? If you guys have any details on that, let me know. Let me know. You guys are saying Jordan Poole for 3. Where's he at? Down here at 3. Let's look at Jordan Poole real quick. Any sport? Love it. Love it. Make sure you guys take advantage of that on PrizePicks, because unlike some other sites, you go 5 for 5 on PrizePicks today, you're getting 20x. But if you go 4 for 5, you're still making money, unlike some other sites out there. So shout out to PrizePicks for throwing that 421 promo together. I like that. I'm with it. All right, Jordan Poole at 3 3-point makes. Let's bump him to 3 here. He's hit 3 or more in 8 out of his last 10 games. 80% hit rate for him there. That's very good. And then against Denver, he's covered 3 3-point makes in 4 straight games against the Nuggets, including 5 in game 1 and 5 in game 2. So 100% hit rate against Denver so far in this playoff series. For the season, in his 5 matchups, he's averaging 4.8 3-point makes. So that's looking really, really good so far. As far as 3-point makes allowed to point guards, Denver Nuggets giving up 3.6 per game. Of course, he's going to be sharing with Steph Curry. Shooting guards against Denver. Denver giving up 4.3 3-point makes to shooting guards. So point guard, shooting guards, they're feasting against the Denver Nuggets from beyond the arc. So I think his 3-point makes are looking kind of nice if you want to go there. At 2.5 3-point makes, a minus 165. Betting favorite to go over at 2.5. So that's why he's probably up at 3. Probably up at 3 today because big juice, big action coming in. I like it, man. Sounds like we go fire up some 5 picks today. What do you guys think? Chase that $20. I'm sorry, $20. 20 times, 20x payout? Absolutely. I don't want to go Donovan Mitchell for 3s. Clemens, Mr. R. Clemens. Just hasn't been shooting very well against Dallas in any of his previous games from 3. I like his points more than I like his 3-point makes. So I'd probably go that route. You can win up to $500 in promo. Is that true? Up to $500 in promo from this promo today, the 20x payout on the 5 picks. Very cool. Very, very cool. Digging that. Otherwise, I mean, we talked about Klay Thompson. He's got very high hit rates at 3.5 3-point makes. You could go there. Andrew Wiggins at 1.5. I mean, he is always in play at 1.5. He's hit the over on 1.5 3-point makes in 4 out of his last 5 games, so an 80% hit rate there. Yeah, I think what I would do on this promo is just play some like lower dollar amount entries, maybe like, I don't know, $10, $20, $10 or $20 5-pick flex entries. They're only going to let you win up to 500, so take some shots at a lower dollar amount. Make multiple 5-pick flex entries. That would be my approach. Lower dollar amount, more volume on your 5-pick flexes. Because, 5 picks are hard to hit. They are hard, the hardest ones to hit, so. Gotcha. Anyway, free throw makes, taking a look at these. We talked about Ja Morant. He had great success getting to the foul line in game 1. Did not have the same success in game 2. Maybe Ja gets more calls tonight. Maybe he's got to be more aggressive tonight. It remains to be seen. Other guys who get to the free throw line pretty well. We saw Jokic finally start to play more aggressive in game 2. Ended up imposing his will on Kevon Looney and the Golden State Warriors front court. Got to the free throw line and knocked down 8 of them before being ejected. So 8 free throw makes in 26 minutes of play. He is playing at home tonight. So maybe he gets more calls against this Golden State Warriors team. So if he's going to be aggressive and he's playing at home, then maybe we look to take the over on Nikola Jokic at 6 free throw makes. I don't mind that one. Donovan Mitchell, pretty good at getting to the free throw line over the last 5 games, 5 or more. We know his usage is super crazy right now. He's playing over 41 minutes per game through 2 games against Dallas. I don't mind you taking some Donovan Mitchell. That could be a good look. Anthony Edwards, 60% hit rate. Maybe you go there, maybe. Jaren Jackson Jr. spends a little bit too much time at the 3-point line for me, kind of playing the perimeter. I'd like to see him down there in the paint a little bit more. If he was down in the paint a little bit more, I'd feel better about that one. Karl Anthony Towns, he had 7 in the last game. I don't know. I can't trust him. So anyway, blocks and steals. Not playing a whole lot of these typically. Not my bag, not my cup of tea. Rudy Gobert, though, against Dallas, pretty good success rate. I think he's hit the over on 2.5 blocks and steals in every game versus Dallas this season, except for the last one. So you can consider the Stifle Tower as a blocks and steals prop. Otherwise, I don't know. Do we want to take a shot on Bogdanovic? Not really a big blocks and steals guy. I mean, if the ball bounces his way, and he could end up with a steal, I guess. Kevon Looney, he ain't really doing a lot of blocking or stealing over the last 5 games. Jokic, maybe. He's got some healthy numbers there. He's 2 for 2 against Golden State so far in this series. 4 and 3. He's hit the over on 2.5 blocks and steals in 4 out of his last 5, 80%. Saying Donovan Mitchell for blocks and steals? You could. I'd probably put your blocks and steals props. If you plan on taking any of these blocks and steals, I'd probably put them in the same entry together. Just have like one entry of just your favorite 2 or 3 blocks and steals props. Probably put 3 of them in an entry together and flex it, because it's such a unpredictable, volatile way to play blocks and steals. To play props through blocks and steals. So I would put all your blocks and steals props into one entry, make it a 3-pick entry, and flex it. That's what I would do, because they're just so unpredictable. Anyways, my friends, it's a little bit after 2 hours here. We've been spending a lot of time on these live streams lately. That's why I wanted to get a little bit of an earlier start. So I'm going to get out of here. There's some MLB games starting very soon over on PrizePicks. I want to make sure that I go out there and put together some winning picks for the Patreon community. So we'll be taking a look at Dylan Cease, Zach Plesac, Jordan Montgomery, Anthony DeSclafani, Carlos Carrasco. Those are your first 5 pitchers on today's slate. We got a little bit less than an hour before those games get started. So I will go and log off of here, and I'll go start putting in the work in for you guys in Patreon and Discord. If I see anything that I like from these first 5 pitchers, I will definitely post. Then you guys can go ahead and tail. Otherwise, appreciate everybody joining. Drop a like on your way out. Thank you so much for your continued support. We will catch you again in tomorrow's live stream talking some more NBA player props. Peace.